ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome on this lovely July 28th. God, it's crazy. We're already at the end of July. Another lovely edition of Drive Time today, joined by two guests. We got, of course, the infamous Scooter back with us again. Scooter, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
No complaints here. And then the lovely Showtime Sarah. We all love her, but then we're waiting for her hate comments to come in later. So she's here with us today too. How you doing, kiddo?
I'm good. It is hot. 92 feels like 103.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you how steamy is it in the Grand North Carolina today. So I figured that's going to be the case, that it was going to be hot, hot, and then hot. And I was not wrong, right? All right, so let's get to it, shall we, boys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen, all that good stuff. So we'll start with a look in the review mirror from some stuff that happened over the week. Of course, the first one that I want to start with is the passing of Hulk Hogan. This happened, what was that, Tuesday or Wednesday last week? So, of course, Monday we had the Malcolm Jamal Warner, then Ozzy Osbourne passed, and it was all the question, of course, well, who is going to be the third? And it was Hulk Hogan that ended up being the third of the 80s, 90s threesome to pass. Ozzy was, I think, more expected than Hogan was, as far as, he was only 71, I think, officially. But it's not uncommon to see these wrestlers with heart issues, and that seems to be what was the case here, now again for Hogan. I think if anyone watched the show on Friday night with the WrestleManiacs, they did a really, really good job, I think, of covering, what Hogan meant to the wrestling world and the importance that he had of that, but also some of the bad stuff that has, plagued him, for lack of a better word, for his life. And I think that they really did a good job of staying fair, of bringing in both sides of it. I've got my personal opinions on it, but Scooter, I'll let you go first.
Well, let's not forget we lost Chuck Mangione, the great trumpeter.
Yes. That was the fourth too. Yeah.
He played himself tremendously well on King of the Hill when he lived above the shelves at the Mega Mart. Amazing. He had all his gold albums up there and everything. It was great. But tough week for a lot of families, celebrities last week. But yeah, we lost the Hulkster. We were just talking about that. Oh, the Hulkamania, little Hulksters. Matty and I were just talking about how we used to watch the cartoon, the Hulk Hogan and Friends cartoon or whatever it was, Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, now, Sarah, I'm curious your thoughts on this, because you're younger. I mean, obviously, look, Hulk Hogan was my main, in the 80s and 90s. If there was, you watched professional wrestling show, it was all about Hulk Hogan. Now you're younger, so what's a young person's view on the passing of Hulk Hogan?
So I'm gonna be completely honest. I didn't know the name until I looked at a picture of him. I was like, oh, that's who
him.
That is.
Not that we watched a lot of wrestling when you were a kid either. We really didn't watch a lot of it.
I'm not. And I was talking to my best friend about it, and I was like, maybe like in the future when John Cena passes away, I think that's like the only one where I'll be like devastated about. Like that's really like the only name I know, and it's not even from wrestling. It was like in a bunch of like memes I watched as a kid with stupid
Or maybe
videos.
The Rock. The Rock was in a lot of shows.
The Rock one, yeah, like when The Rock dies, that one will also hit me pretty hard. But I don't really know much about Hulk Hogan. I have like seen or like heard a bunch of stuff of how his controversy and everything. But I mean, Ozzy was kind of controversial too. I think that one also, like, because I like to listen to people like after they kind of pass away. So like, okay, like what was their music like if I didn't like really associate with them that well? And I was like, oh dang, I actually did know a lot of Ozzy. So I kind of felt like a little sad about that.
Yeah,
but I don't really know much about Hulk. But rest in peace.
I agree. Sorry, Sarah. Your bubble goes away when we have comments. Sorry. That's how that works. Anthony says, I give credit for what he's done inside the ring and how he made the sport mainstream, but his own colleagues said he was a heavy politic guy. If he didn't like you, he would bury you purposely. He also adds, and he would make young talent indebted to him by faking injuries so they would do anything for him. I think these are some of the things that are on the negative side for Hogan. I will say, this is what I've said in my comments throughout, when they talked about this on Thursday, when they talked about this on Saturday, being a young fan of when I was a younger kid and I watched wrestling, and it's still probably true today, the loudest crowd I've ever heard are the 2 times I've seen Hulk Hogan live. And that was, the second that first tone of Real American is played and the crowd just goes ape shit crazy. Now, the guys talked about how that's still the case for others. Now, I'll be honest, like my time watching wrestling was more, it really kind of ended probably in 94, 95, 96. I just really had never picked it back up again. So I can't really talk about what it's like for these guys that go into these places now. But I know then it's the loudest arena I've ever heard live. And I don't know that the WWE or F or whatever you want to call it from when it was back then, I don't think it would be where it is today without Hulk Hogan. And I think that's just the simple fact of it is what how he rose to that spot. I think there's lots to be said about that and how he stayed in that position. Lots to be said about that. And Anthony brings up a lot of good points on it. But the bottom line is, he was the main character for professional wrestling. Had the American flag that he brought out, eat your vitamins and say your prayers, whether how true that was, because we all know he did steroids, right? Like we know how he got there, but that was the message that he gave to kids, right? So I think that needs to be said, but at the same time, you can see, and look, then there's other stuff too later on in his life. There's the whole affair that he had with his best friend's wife and different stuff like that, and racial slurs that he made. There's lots of bad that can be said for him, but I do think you have to, with the bad, recognize the fact that he probably changed how professional wrestling is viewed today. Like, I just don't know that it'd be as popular as it was without that.
Yeah, I went to three WW events in the 80s, mid to late 80s at the WWF's home arena, the Hartford Civic Center. It's in Stamford, Connecticut. You could drive right past the WWE headquarters on 95 in Stamford, Connecticut. I mean, you could say MSG was, but when they come up, that place would pack out like crazy, and the Hulkster was always there. I think there's one of the 3 times. I don't think he was wrestling because he had some injury or something like that. But the 2 times that I was down on the floor, and right at that, like I smacked the dude right on the shoulder, and it was great. It was awesome. It was the coolest thing because you knew you're on TV. It's the Hulk, and I don't think the Hulk, if I recall, was very tall. I think
compared to some of them. I think
I was like 13 or something. I smacked him. I don't think he was that much taller than me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you're right on that. I think I don't remember being, especially like if you looked at him when you compare him to like, of course, Andre the Giant, which speaking of that, Vic brings up, when he body slammed Andre the Giant, I think that's technically WrestleMania 2. I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3. That was a huge moment.
Was like when WrestleMania 3 came out, right? It was like 85 or something like that. When WrestleMania 3 came out, that was it. Like I knew people that went, it was like in Detroit or something. I knew people who went there. Yeah, and that was what blew up WWF, in my opinion.
Sold out the then Silver Dome, right? Which now no longer
exists. The Silver Dome.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Vic. That's the moment where Hogan truly became Hogan. And Jack adds, the Hulkster was one of the greatest entertainers of our time. He filled arenas and raised roofs. Yeah, I mean, I these are all true statements. I think what everyone has said about him is true, and I think that's the important part. You can respect both sides of it, and I think that's important for us to do, is to have that full scope of Hulk Hogan was and how he did. Jack says, shoot, I never realized that. He said he's actually 6'7". It's funny when you look at him compared to the other guys. You're right.
Maybe we were up taller and they were in a I don't know.
Yeah. So. They all look so big too. So it's hard to tell. So all right, we'll go with that. We'll take that. So thanks, Jack, for adding that in. Yeah, I'll go with that. All right. So anything else on Hogan, Sarah or Scooter?
Well, I think when it comes to, like, me, I'm a 1980s guy all the way through, in and out. But, I mean, you can't talk about the 1980s without Hulk Hogan. I mean, he's probably one of the top 10 figures of the entire 1980s.
Yep, agree.
And, he was entertainment. And so, prayers to his family and all his fans out there. Yeah, he, just like anyone, he had his own issues. And God bless the WWE world.
Well said, sir. So with that, we'll move on. Some other weekend events. Bubba wins his first major in NASCAR. Which one did he win this time, Scooter?
Oh, this was the Indianapolis race, the Brickyard.
Yeah, that's right, the Brickyard, because they don't do that at the same time as that'd be neat if they could somehow figure out a way to do the Indy 500 and the Brickyard on the same weekend. But
they do the Charlotte race. They do the 600 miles at Charlotte at night, and the Indianapolis 500s during the day. And Kyle Larson's done that twice. He's tried to do it twice.
Right.
To race both events in the same day.
And before that, Danica Patrick had tried it, and then there were people before that. A couple of the entries, Stewart did it, but Stewart, no one's ever been able to pull it off. That'd be neat to see somebody pull off. So Bubba wins this one. Sarah, did you watch it? I know you're into the NASCAR stuff.
I didn't watch this one now.
Didn't watch it? No.
It was a good race. It was a good race. Came down to the end. There was really good. With about 4 laps left, they had a little rain, so they had to stop it.
Oh boy!
And Bubba was in the lead. And I can imagine if Bubba lost. I mean, most of the reasons why Bubba has some people don't like him is in NASCAR world is because he's kind of like a very finicky. He's not like the nicest guy, if you will. Not that all the NASCAR guys are nice, but he gets upset quickly. He gets irritable, and so I could imagine if he lost, he would have just gone crazy.
About the weather.
About that. Yeah, exactly. But he deserved it. It's a good win. That's his 3rd win. He's actually won at Talladega, Brickyard, and also Pocono. Those are 3 nice races. Now, if you will, the 4 majors, if you will, it's Daytona 500, the spring race in Talladega, the Brickyard, and then the Bristol race.
Yes.
One of the 2 Bristol races. Those would be the 4 races. He won Talladega in the fall race, which was actually a playoff race a few years ago. He wasn't in the playoffs, but he won the race, which is kind of cool. But he deserves. He's a decent racer. He's only won 3 races, 277 races total. It's hard to win races, but he works hard.
Yep, I think it's look, I'm not the big into the NASCAR stuff, but I like others are. My favorite line with NASCAR is I just love whenever they win and they got to thank all their sponsors. Yeah, I like to thank the Home Depot, McDonald's, Pepsi team today. They really did a good job. It always cracks me up when they get and they know it. They got them all down. It just cracks me up. But all right, so. I know we got a lot of Commanders fans here. Terry McLaurin still not signed. Scooter, this is big news for you because he's one of your fantasy keepers. How nervous are you about Terry? For think he's going to get signed?
Oh, I just love Terry as an individual. Plus, he's on my team. This is how they would do it in NASCAR.
Right. Make sure they got the logo right there.
They had a really funny commercial years ago about Coca-Cola, and every one of them was drinking Coke, and they were not talking. But But yeah, Terry needs to. It's not a Terry, but it's not Terry. But it sounds like Adam Schefter is sort of getting out there that Terry's looking for $35 million a year for 3 years, which is sort of DK Metcalf money because DK Metcalf is doing 33, but it's for a 5-year deal.
Right.
He's a touch younger. They were in the same draft, but I think Metcalf's 2 years younger than him. But it was good to see Terry performing his hold in as opposed to the hold out. He's there. He's just not practicing. I'm all good with that.
Especially
work itself out.
In this year, in this day and age, these guys missing training camp. I just don't think it's as big deal as it could have been. One thing you don't want to see is one of these guys blow an ACL, in training camp, which always happens every training camp. Somebody blows one, So it's just a question of who. It's not a question of when. It's just a question of who. Some of these guys missing out. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's going to get done. Vic says he at least showed up to camp. Cortland Sutton could bring down Terry's asking price.
Cortland it could, because they're the same exact age, I think.
Yep.
I think they're both 29. So here's the thing, though. This is what drives me insane. He's really old. And I'm well, in a few years, he has a couple-year contract going on, 2-3-year contract. Well, he'll be in his mid-30s. I'm dude's not even 30 yet. Okay, I know he's 29. He's 30 in September. But this isn't the running back position.
No.
This is the wide receiver position. And, he is in great shape. He's always been in great shape. Sometimes he gets a little injured here and there. That's fine. It's football. But I mean, I don't know. What his first year, he had 947 yards, and then every year after he's had 1,000.
Yeah,
and he would have had like 1,020 if Cade. What was that? Cade. I almost call him Cade McNown. What's his face? Cade something on his first game ever. He totally overpassed a wide open Terry McLaurin for like an 80-yard touchdown pass against the Eagles.
And I think Terry is known for he gets a lot of big receptions where he gets tackled at the 1-2 yard line. It'd be amazing. Yeah. Like if some of those he could have been able to get in there, his touchdown numbers would be way better. I think he's a top 10 guy. I don't know if he's top 5, but I think he's top 10. Yeah, right. And Ben's got your name for you, Case Keenum. So
there he is, Case Keenum.
Midnight Rider comes in for you with the name. So thank you, Midnight Rider. Vic says Terry is better than Sutton, but they're the same age in both ones. Yeah, I would agree with that.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Showtime, Sarah, you got any Terry thoughts? I know you're big on fantasy football.
No, I don't know Terry. I know Micah, but that's like because he's on the Cowboys, right?
That's
right. Was on the Cowboys.
Yep.
Is it? Yeah. That's the only one I know, but I don't know anything.
Yeah, and he just signed, right? Did he sign yet?
Yeah, unless that happened in the last 20 minutes, he has not.
No, yeah, so he's still holding out too. Yeah, so we'll see how these holdouts go.
If you're Micah Parsons, though, okay, so you're sitting here, you're trying to get this contract. You're 26 years old. He's got he said, to the Joneses that you do Dak and then do CD. And then let's talk. I can wait patiently over here. So those guys are done. And then you get their tight end, Turd Ferguson, who had 0 touchdowns last year. He got 4-year, $52 million contract. If you're Micah Parsons, you're going ape Godzilla crazy. Okay? Right. Because, he does want $40 million a year, by the way. He wants over $40 million a year. I don't know if he's going to get that, but that's a good start. You can bring that down. But I'm upset that, Ferguson, what? You pay Ferguson his money, but, seriously, though, if you're Parsons, you're sitting there like, well, I'm ready.
Yeah, he's arguably one of the best linebackers, right? And, of course, it's Jerry Jones, so he's still got to feel like he's got to win. So I don't know. That's if I had a bet between which one of these guys has signed and plenty of time to be ready by week 1, I'll take Terry. I think that deal's going to get done. Micah, I'm not so sure it's going to get done because I think like you said, I think there's probably now a little bit of bitterness there. And then you're also dealing with Jerry Jones, who ultimately has to be right. And so, or feel like he's got to win. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Winning off the field.
And Trey Hendrickson as well. So we'll see how these deals go for sure. And then there was Friday night. And what a Friday night for Nick Kurtz, the rookie from the Oakland A's. He's playing for the A's in Houston, and he goes 6 for 6. Yes, that's right. 6 for 6, 4 homers, 6 runs scored, and 8 RBIs in one game. Nick Kurtz, have yourself a night. And, man, if you had him on your fantasy baseball team and you didn't win this week, boy, you have some mismanagement to explain on that fantasy.
You got one of the guys 33 fantasy points.
Yeah. In one night.
In one night. That's like really great pitcher night.
Yeah. Crazy good. Yeah. Crazy good night for a young kid that's up and coming for the A's. We actually just saw him when the A's were here in Cleveland, and he had a couple really good games here. So I think he's the real deal. And there's a lot of talk because he's one of the higher picks with Caglione, who of course just got hurt for Kansas City. Travis Bazanza for the Guards, who has not made a major league debut yet, but he had some injuries earlier this year, so he's going to probably. I don't think we'll see him here until who the hell knows after the trade deadline. There could be all kinds of stuff that happens here in Cleveland, but we'll save that for here in a little bit. So, but we'll see. But yeah, what a night for him on Friday. So since we're talking baseball. The Baseball Hall of Fame inductions were this weekend. Dick Allen, Dave Parker, which was that one was bittersweet to watch because he just passed away, so he doesn't quite make it to his induction day, which is a bummer. But I thought his family did really well. CC Sabathia, former Yankee and Cleveland pitchers, started with Cleveland, so I was very happy to see that. I think the best speech went to Ichiro. He had a great speech talking about the Marlins and the one voter that didn't make him unanimous. So I thought he had a great speech. Billy Wagner Buckner, and then of course the one that's dear to my heart, the Frick Award winner, which was Tommy Hamilton for the broadcast winger, who is a Cleveland Guardians broadcaster on the radio side. Just and there was a lot of love for Hammy, as we call him here in Cleveland, for his calls. And if you ever just want to hear some great home run calls, just go to YouTube. There's the Tom Hamilton classics, and then of course I think the one that really got him the praise to get him in there is the Down Goes Anderson, when Jose Ramirez clocks Tim Anderson, and Tim Anderson has never been the same since. So those all help, but he's his humble self where he's like, I don't deserve this award, and everyone's like, hell yes you do. So congrats to all of them that got their inductions this weekend. Scooter, any thoughts on any of them?
Yeah, I mean, what does it take to get like a Dick Allen into the Hall of Fame earlier? Park? These guys. I mean, we do this a little quicker, I think. Like, oh yeah, they'll get into the Hall of Fame. So, okay, well, let's make sure. Like, I mean, yeah. I love Dick Allen. I mean, he was a great ball player, but I love seeing all those pictures with the cigarette in his mouth and everything like that in the dugouts. Oh yeah, man.
I mean, old school. Yeah, I'm not sure what took so long, but yeah, he's at least finally in. I think that's a good thing. Him and Dave Parker. I think Parker should have been in a year or two ago, and especially now with him passing, would have been nice to be able to see him be in Cooperstown instead of just the family. But so that one's definitely the bittersweet one for me of watching what I saw of the clips and stuff from what they all said this weekend. Now
Ichiro's just amazing. That guy. The question is, who's the voter who didn't vote for him?
Yeah, we'll never know. Unfortunately, I wish we would, because that person should that person should have their vote taken away immediately. So
I mean, it's Ichiro. He's great. I mean, you look at what was this? I saw this thing where it was like those who hit 300. It was those who hit 200 had 200 hits by the age of like 29. It was all these guys. Some had like 500, 1,000. Ichiro 0.
Yeah.
So he's that.
Sarah, any thoughts on the inductions?
I mean, the only one I really know is Hammy, so obviously kudos to him. But that's really all I got. I'm not very much into the Hall of Fame yet, because I'm still not in that time period.
He's just so loud, remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
He gets too excited.
I do want to say about CC Sabathia, though. He was... I mean, I think people forget how good of a pitcher he was and how long he'd stay in games and how long he played for. And he was a magnificent pitcher.
He was very good. Like, I'm a little bummed that he chose the Yankees over Cleveland Cap, but I get it, and he had a lot of good things to say about Cleveland, so I got no ill will towards him. And Carl Willis, who's our pitching coach, went there for his induction. So I thought it was all well done. Baseball does a really good job with their Hall of Fame inductions. So, and they did it again. Then today, the breaking news for yet another kick in the nuts for Cleveland's fans. Closer Emmanuel Clase is put on the non-disciplinary paid leave through August 31st while they investigate him for part of the league's gambling investigation. This is the second Guardians pitcher to be put on said list. Earlier, Luis Ortiz was put on it. He has not been removed from it. And what this stems from is, with all the betting in baseball now, one of the main big prop bets is the first pitch of an inning. And they've now tracked 22 different pitches from Clase over the times when he's come in the top of the ninth. And 11 of them are just really, really bad first pitches. Now, I never really noticed this before until you look at them all in the clip together, but Clase is a sinker type, he's got a cutter and then the slider. So his pitches typically go in the dirt, and the first pitch I could see kind of being out there, but when you put them all together in one big clip, it doesn't look good, because there's not being a strike, and then there's where these pitches ended up. So this is just look, he hasn't had the year that he did last year, where he could have arguably been a Cy Young Award winner. He still was pretty damn good this year, and he was getting better. He was back to his ERA, was back under 3, even though he did have a hiccup on Saturday where he gave up a 3-run homer in the 10th inning. But overall, he's been pretty damn good again. So now he's also was huge in the rumor mills of that Cleveland was maybe going to trade him now because they could get the most that they're ever going to get for this guy, and there's a team that needs a closer. Obviously, that's going to be gone to the wind. Yeah, my whole take on this is this: look, if he's guilty, it's bad for him. He's already been on the 80 game suspension when Cleveland first got him for PED abuse. So if he did end up doing something, he's probably done. I think between the PED and this, I'm not sure if he ever pitches in baseball again. If he's found guilty, we'll see with Luis Ortiz. He's probably going to be out for at least the rest of the year, I would think, and then we'll go from there. But it's just, my whole thing is this: is that you had to know this was coming. Like, if you're going to have baseball bets in where you're going to have these prop bets, this was always going to be a possibility. Now, it's weird that it's 2 Dominican pitchers and it's 2 pitchers for the same organization. But, to me, the one easy solution is, okay, well, let's get rid of the first pitch being a ball or strike prop bet, and then this doesn't happen. But I don't know. I just don't like it. So, Scooter, what are your thoughts on?
It's just, it's just weird. That came out of the blue. I didn't know. Like, all of a sudden, you're like, oh, just in. I'm like, holy cow. I mean, we'll see where that goes. He's probably in trouble.
Yeah, agree.
Sounds like you might be in trouble here, but
they don't usually put you on this list of like, got some
like,
evidence.
was he getting money for it? Like, that's the whole, right? Like,
yeah, we don't know that part yet, and that's where I don't want to speculate, but that's usually the case, is that means that they were involved somehow in the bet to then, to make sure that the bet was going to be that they were going to probably have to get some money for that first pitch being a ball, because that's what the pitchers can control, right? I mean, it's harder to say, yes, I'm going to throw a strike. I guess you could throw a meatball down the middle, but it's really easy to throw a ball, like. And,
it's the easiest thing to do is throw a ball.
Right. Yep. So, Sarah, any thoughts on it?
It's just messy.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw him try to close out that one game that we went to, and then I'm thinking, oh my God, was that one of them?
Yeah, I know. It's like, I had the same thing rolling through my mind from the game on Saturday. It's like, well, could that have been one of them?
Yeah, like it's just homer. Like, I don't necessarily think like sports betting is a bad thing. Obviously, for like people who just watch sports, because I mean, they're not, if you get more money from it, cool. But like, just players doing it, and it's just like, yes, obviously it's already illegal, but there's no there's not much. There's not much security on it. Like, and I guess eventually, yeah, they do end up getting caught and they do end up getting in trouble. But like, it's just very difficult. I mean, in the NHL, they had what was it? Shane Pinto. He got caught with it, and he only had like banned 40 games, and there was like, I don't think nothing else. And I think he still plays today. I'm pretty sure. So it's just,
I don't think though he bet on hockey. I think that he got caught betting on other stuff, and that's why his suspension was lighter, because he was.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. So it's just interesting seeing other players. Like, I mean, I guess betting against other sports that you don't play, or like games that you're not in, is different. But it's definitely a very interesting situation, making me feel like maybe if anybody else from Cleveland gets
yeah. The MLB did come out today and say that these are the only 2 players for Cleveland under investigation. So we'll see. That should be it. So yeah, the whole pitching staff ends up there we're screwed. But Midnight Rider CC pitched on short rest to end the season with the Brewers. Yeah, I do remember him the Brewers years too. He had a couple good seasons there. Vic, I'm not sure how long Manfred has left anyway, getting in shouting matches with players in clubhouses with Bryce Harper. Don't take salary cap issues and talk about them in Major League clubhouses. Yeah, Jared was just adding he's still the commissioner through the next CBA, so we'll see how that goes too. But yeah, it's
I think Bryce Harper was yelling at him.
Yes, he was. Yeah, Bryce was yelling at him. These players think they are working the system. They fail to realize Vegas is watching everything. 100% correct, Midnight Rider. That is 100% correct. That all this stuff gets tracked. And that's why I said, like, I agree with Sarah. Like, I got no problem with betting on sports, and I think there's 2 areas I do. One is on these, on the prop bets for college games, because you hear the horror stories of these kids just get slaughtered with, hate, email, and threats because they didn't do something right. And I think for the college kids, I really would love to see the prop bets go away completely, and just, you can bet on the game, you can bet on, the team stuff, but I think the individual prop bets, and maybe in pro sports too, get rid of the individual prop bets, and maybe some of this then goes away. But we all know what the individual prop bets do. They make lots of money. So, how realistic is that too? Do not know. Don't have a good answer for any of it. All right, so then there were some trades. We'll get into these real quickly. Josh Naylor went from Arizona to Seattle for a couple top prospects. They got who they get here? I got it here. Braden Garcia and Ashton Izzy. That's their 13th and 16th prospects, according to Baseball Prospects. Then the Yankees add Ryan McMahon, a third baseman from Colorado, for 2 prospects, Griffin Herring and Josh Grosz. McMahon has 16 homers from Colorado. Herring is the 8th prospect, and Grosz is the 21st prospect. They also acquired Ahmad Rosario from the Nats, which you knew the Nats were going to turn Ahmed Rosario around. It was a pending free agent. They got Clayton Better and Bram Martinez. Better is the Yanks' 20th prospect. Martinez is a low-level prospect at base, just kind of a throw-in. And then the Royals added Randall Grichuk from Arizona for Andrew Hoffman. Hoffman just kind of came up from as a pitcher. He's got a 2.25 and only 40 innings. Grichuk adds an outfield bat that they needed. He only bats .218, but he does have 19 homers. And then the Mets add Gregory Soto from the O's, and they get Wellington Arciana, which was a 19th prospect, and Cameron Foster, who's a 26-year-old in Double-A. So we know that he's a throw-in. Where we're at with these guys as far as the trades that have happened. Scooter, any thoughts on any of the deals that have already taken place?
Yeah, I'm going to go straight and look at Arizona here, and I think they saw the writing on the wall. This season's not going to work out well for them, so they're trying to get players in. I like what Arizona's doing, getting rid of some of these guys and moving in young guys that they can bring in, especially with the management that they have in place there in Arizona right now. They work well with young players, so I think this is a good move. This is a down year for them, and they should be back up next year. With that, I love the fact that the Mets got Soto. They got all sorts of Sotos over there.
They do. They've got lots of Sotos now. Sarah, any thoughts on any of the trades?
No, not really. I mean, Josh Naylor, I think it's a good pickup for Seattle. I think it'll definitely help them. I don't know how much of a good season he's been having, but I definitely think
he's got 11 homers and he's batting 280 something. So his homers are a little bit down, but he's still batting.
So that's a great pickup for Seattle, especially because I think they are one of the teams on a better end. At least the last time I checked, they were. Yep. But that's really the only name I know. I mean, I know Soto, but I know other Sotos, so not that Soto.
Agree. Anthony puts down, I don't think the Yankees are done. I think they're going to get Edward Cabrera, maybe a Kyle Star Wars. Who's he talking about? I'm not sure who you're talking about with Kyle Star Wars. If that's who you're thinking of there. And Anthony, you put a NASCAR question into the comments. I will get to that but I'm going to wait till we get through the baseball stuff, and then I'll come back to the NASCAR question for you, because I'll pose that to Scooter and Sarah, because they're a little bit more to NASCAR than I am. So I will get to that comment, Anthony. Just let me get through the baseball stuff here, and then I'll bring it back up where it's kind of a little bit better spot to bring it up. Okay. So with that, here's what we're going to do next. This is going to be buyers or sellers. I'm going to give you a team. You're going to give me if you think they're a buyer or seller. Now, look, I did not put the Yankees in. I did not put the Cubs in. I did not put the Astros in. I didn't put all the teams that are at the top of their division, because we all know that they're probably going to try to buy what they can, right? These are the teams that are kind of right there in the middle of the race. They're in that second, third wild card spot, or second and third of the division. So they're kind of borderline teams of they could go either way, right? So we're going to give our predictions as far as, do we think these guys are going to be buyers or sellers? The first team, I think, is pretty easy, because they've already demonstrated that they're going to be sellers. They've already sold a couple pieces. I think they've got a couple more to go. I think Zach Gallen's going to be gone. Merrill Kelly's probably going to be gone. The key question is going to be who's going to get Eugenio Suarez. All three of those guys seem to be rumored to be gone. It's just a question of where they go. So I think this is all pretty easy. Do we all agree that Arizona is clearly selling at this point in time?
All right. Those are the 3 players I would say also. Yeah. So I mean, they're all in on getting younger for next year.
Yep, I agree. Kyle puts down Kyle Star Wars, the outfielder of the Marlins. Okay, now when I said Star Wars, I was trying to think of a player, Kyle, that was on the trading block, and one was not popping to me. So,
I wasn't even thinking.
And he's got here the Giants, Padres, Mets, Mariners are buyers, Arizona seller. Yeah, I think you're probably right on those teams. We'll get through some of these here ourselves here. So then next team I got up is the Miami Marlins, who, I'll be honest, that they've had a lot better year this year than I thought they would. They're kind of in that wild card race. I think hold on, let me pull up the standings here. I think they're back to just 5 out right now of that third wild card spot. They've kind of been a pleasant little surprise team this year, but it's still Marlins management. I don't know that they're quite ready to go. The key thing I think too, if you're in the NL, is you have to ask yourself, do you really think you can compete in a playoff series with the Mets, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Cubs? And I don't know that they're quite there yet, but they're 50 and 54. They're hanging in it. And they are wild card wise, they are only 6 back. So I still think that they're sellers, but I think that they're a pleasant surprise. I think the big name seems to be Sandy Alcantara too, and then Anthony brings up Kyle Stowers for the Marlins is probably another guy that's going to get moved. And I think that those are 2 names that are going to get moved. So I think they should get a nice haul. Toronto and the Cubs are teams that need another starter, especially if Boyd's injury ends up being longer than what it looks like he's going to be. So. Wait, you guys in agreement too with Miami is probably being sellers at the deadline?
Most likely, yeah. Especially when your management is not the strongest suit as it should be.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Marlins fans because they just have not, look, they're a step above, I think, Pittsburgh right now as far as these lower level market teams. I think Miami's trying to do it right, where Pittsburgh, I just have no clue what the hell they're doing in Pittsburgh anymore from year to year. Anthony says I'm saying there's some semi-buyers, semi-sellers, depending on if they end up being 500 before the deadline. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this week, the series that come up today, tomorrow, Wednesday will be interesting for sure. So I think we're kind of all in agreement on Miami. Next team
I don't
up.
think Stowers goes though.
You don't think so? You think he's
no? I can see Alcantara, Cabrera, some of their outfielders they may move, but I think he stays. I may be wrong about it, but I think Stowers stays.
Yeah, and I think Anthony says Cabrera probably goes to the Dodgers or Cubs because they want controllable starters, and he has 3 years of arbitration plus. Yeah, so he's got term left, which teams always love those type of players if you can get them. St. Louis, they are right there as well. They are only 3.5 out of the wild card spot. But they seem to me to be a team that is going to be a sellers. They've also had some injuries. They've been rumored to be throwing Nolan Ariando out there. Now, Nolan does have a full no movement clause, so I'm not sure if he goes anywhere or not because he's going to have to agree to it. Sonny Gray is probably gone. But I think St. Louis seems to, again, it's another one of those teams. They're sitting at 54 and 53 right now, but how competitive are you going to be in a short series against these big powerhouse teams? I just don't think that they're in it. And I think Anthony's got this right here on the head too. The Cardinals are in that weird place like Miami. They're playing better than they're supposed to, but they're a rebuilding team. And I think that's probably 100% correct. Scooter, any thoughts on the Cardinals?
Yeah, I think they send some of the relievers away. And then was it Brandon Doran? I think they get something for him too. I mean, there's going to be some teams out there edging for the playoffs, trying to get some utility bats in there and stuff like that. So especially reliever. I think it's a huge reliever market right now.
Yeah.
There's going to be relievers moving around left and right like crazy, and like utility players.
Yep. Agree with you, 100% correct. Showtime, any thoughts on St. Louis?
Not necessarily. I think you'd have to sell a lot to kind of get to where Pittsburgh would be because, essential. You got Chicago, Milwaukee tied. Cincinnati's just 6.5 games behind. Seattle's 9. So, I can see them going either way. I think it's a 50-50. They might try to pick up some pieces, but I could also see them trying to get some pieces out as well. I don't think it would win either way.
And we know Pittsburgh's going to make moves. They're clearly out. And those are the teams too that are not going to be showing up here. We know that the Pittsburghs, the Nats, the O's are all teams that if they can sell off some pieces, they're going to sell them off.
Tank it.
And then and then we have the Cincinnati Reds, which is kind of my little darling. I think Tito has done a great job with the Reds, which I knew he would bring these guys up into it. They're only a game back behind San Diego. I think the Reds are going to be sellers. They need some buyers. They need some bullpen. They could use a middle of the order bat. They've got some assets in their system where I think Cincinnati could make a move or two and go for it. I think Cincy is going to be a buyer come this trade deadline. Scott?
Well, Cincy should be a buyer.
Yeah.
But is management and ownership, are they willing to do that? We don't know. But they should be a buyer. Like you said, bullpen. Maybe outfield. They got a few holes here and there. They're a good team, but I don't know what they're going to do.
Yep. Sarah, anything on the Reds?
Not necessarily. I guess I'll agree with you guys that they should be a buyer. I don't really know much about their seasons per se. Tito's there. He knows what he's doing. So
That's true. Everyone should trust Tito. Anthony has a little question for Scott. I know the answer to this, but Scooter, I'll let you give your answer. So Scott, his real name is Scott, by the way, but he goes
Scott.
by Scooter.
The Midnight Rider could tell you exactly what my full name is. I mean, if he's still out there, it's better coming from him if he writes it down. So I'll let him handle my name.
Anthony says, where do you have the Angels? Just hold on for the Angels. They're going to be when we get to the AL side of things. So I started with the NL, then we'll get to the AL. So we'll give you some answers on the Angels here when we get there. All right. So that's the Reds. And then I think so now we go to the AL side. We have the Minnesota Twins who, look, I said before the season started that Rocco, their manager, should be on the hot seat. Instead, they signed him to a new contract. Mm-hmm. They're the streakiest team probably in baseball. They're sitting there at 50, 55. They should be better. But this is the same thing with Rocco teams. They should be better. They keep re-signing them to these deals, and yet here they are. I think Minnesota definitely should be a seller. They're going to have Harrison Bader, who can give some outfield. The question is, are they going to be willing to moving on from some of their pieces that they have? You talk about relief pitchers. They got Johan Duran, Joe Ryan. If you want to remove another bat, you got Willie Castro. They got Denny Cumbly in the bullpen for a lefty. The Twins need to be sellers for sure, and then they need to fire their manager for once and for all.
That's how you feel.
That's how I feel. Any thoughts on Minnesota?
Minnesota. Well, I think the two pitchers is that Ryan and Johan. They're I think they're signed to like 2027.
Yep.
So they might think about holding on to those guys, but I mean, you got several other players you can get rid of. I mean, the Bader one, that's a good one to move.
Yep, agree. Sarah, anything on the Twins?
Sell it.
Sell it. Sell it. All right. So then this is a question that Anthony had about the Angels. And I think the Angels are one of these weird teams. Again, right? They're one of the teams, I don't think anyone expected them to be there, but they're sitting there only 5 out of the wild card spot. They're at 51 and 55. I think that they need pitching. So if they're going to buy, they're going to get pitching, but they've also got some guys that they wanted to move out to just be ready to make maybe more of a push next year. I think Tyler Anderson and Kyle Hendricks are some guys that could go. And they have maybe a closer and Kenley Jensen, who's had a nice rebound year this year, that I could see a team, especially now that Clase is going to be off the market. And then Taylor Ward is rumored to be moved every time at this time of year, and he never seems to move. But we'll see. And do they make a move on Luis Rengriffo? I can never say his damn name, but you know who I mean. Rengriffo. So we'll see how it plays out. I think the Angels are still going to be sellers, but because I think they're a year away. So I think they're one of these teams, just like like we talked about before with the Cardinals and Marlins, they've ended up having really nice years. But I think if you look at it realistically, they're probably a year away. So I think they're going to be sellers.
A year away from what? Like a full rebuild?
No, from being able to probably contend and get into the wild card talk. I think I think they're still a year away.
I mean, I still think they should buy. I mean, like if you're really that close to a wild card spot, I mean, it can't hurt you that much, right? Like, I think they should go for the buy.
All right, I like it. They're not too far out.
I see them as sellers. Some of the pitchers you named. Moncada at third base, and someone looking for a third base, and they can jump on in. They got a lot of players they could move and get something back for. But I think there's going to be a few moves on them, and they're moving them out.
Probably agree. Tampa Bay, this is another one of these teams, that could be both. I think they've got some people that would be interested in like a Zach Littell, but they've got new ownership now. They still don't have where the hell they're going to play figured out. I just don't know. They could use a catcher, a right-handed bat, but Tampa Bay and Houston are those teams that every year you think, okay, this is going to be the year their downfall, and then they're still in it. So they're there at 53 and 53. They're 3 games out right now. I don't know. I think Tampa, I don't see them probably doing a lot either way. I think they're probably just going to hold tight. So I don't see them to be a buyer or a seller because they never really do much like that in years past. So I don't know. I don't see them moving much.
I see them as a buyer, maybe, like you said. It's kind of weird because they could be a seller too. I think the past few years they brought in and they traded some. So you can't really tell. So you got to go put it right there. But if they need anything, they need bullpen pitching. So I think they get a bullpen pitcher.
And real quick breaking news: Midnight Rider does come through with the full name for Scooter.
Thank you.
I mean, that's an ERAC day, right? This goes back to the
Right.
ERAC days, right? If I remember correctly.
Tyrone Tiberius James Rivette.
Oh, good stuff. All right. I did forget to one NL team I forgot to mention was San Diego. I kind of think that San Diego every year, San Diego is a team that you never have to worry about making a trade. So that's why I didn't include them, because San Diego seems like they make a trade every year. So like we know that San Diego is going to trade people because they always do. So I forgot to put them in there, but that was why, because like the years past, like there's always a trade involving San Diego. They're never afraid to make a trade. So
I think they're buying. The Padres are buying.
Yeah, they're buying. But they'll buy by selling somebody too. You know what I mean? Like they're not afraid to move guys. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. So that's why I didn't include them either, because I think they're going to do what they always do. All right, Texas is another interesting team. They've won 6 games in a row. They could use a first baseman. This is where maybe a Carlos Santana could go. They need a good defensive first baseman. I think the Guards would love to move on from Carlos Santana to give Manzardo and David Fry some more bats at the first base DH platoon. They could probably use a high-level reliever. I've heard some rumors that they could maybe be thinking about moving on 2023 hero Adolis Garcia. I don't see that happening. I think it'd take a lot to move him, but I think Texas is going to be buyers at this point in time. I think they're going to try to go on another run. They're in a division where they can make that run. They're currently sitting there pretty in the wild card spot. They're 3 games ahead of everybody else in that 3rd spot. But I think they're going to want to make some moves to solidify that spot. Everyone in agreement?
Yes, right. They have 27 wins the last 42 games. So, like you said, 6 in a row. I mean, they're lighting it up right now. They're doing well. They're gonna obviously try to get some relief pitchers in there. Got to get that bullpen. At least one starting pitcher. In another bat.
Yep, I agree.
That can help them for the rest of the year, anyways.
Seattle, I think they've answered this question by adding on Josh Naylor already, so I think they're clearly in buying mode. I think they could still use a couple more bats to go with a really good pitching staff in Seattle. And don't look now, but they are closing ground on Houston a little bit. They're only 4 games back. Both them and Texas are only 4 games back at Houston. So Houston, who was a team that had an 8, 9, 10 game lead earlier, right towards the All-Star break, that lead's come down a little bit because Houston's has had a little bit of trouble. So I think these 2 teams are definitely both buyers.
Is that even a Mariners logo? It's giving.
That's the old school Mariners logo, baby. I found the old pitchfork logo. Yeah, of course, it's their logo.
Jay Buhner. Jay Buhner.
That's right, the Jay Buhner days. Anthony adds in, to be honest, I can see them trying to go after Kyle Tower from Miami and giving up Wyatt Langford. Yeah, I mean that's a possibility that's Tampa, if I remember right. Boy, my teams always go on me when I start the show. Kansas City, I think that they're going to be a team that doesn't make many moves, because one of the guys that they were going to move somebody was Seth Lugo. They just got his deal done, so clearly he's off the market now. They added in not a big name with Grichuk, but they made a move and they got Frazier. They could use some more bats. Thank you, Anthony. Sorry, Anthony, the Rangers. I don't know why I said the Rays. That's who I had in my brain for some reason. So I knew somewhere. Yeah, I think that could be a move that you could see happen. That'd be a good one. I like, and if it happens, Anthony, you can take credit on the shows for the trade that you called. So that's the key to this. You get your flowers if you get one of these correct, for sure. So Kansas City, I don't think they're another one of these teams. They're what are they? They're 4 back. They're 52 and 54. They've got good pitching. They just don't see and they have Bobby Witt Jr. And they got Salvador Perez. But after that, their lineup gets thin pretty quick. They've got Garcia, who's got some speed, but I don't know. I think they're going to be a team that kind of that I don't see them really going out and making another big move, because I just don't think that they've got the prospects to do it. But I don't see them selling off anything either at this point in time, now that they got Lugo signed.
I see them going after some utility player.
Yeah, right. That's the kind of thing.
Like you're saying, to help him out with the bats.
And that leads, of course, to the last one on the list here. With Anthony had this question: the gambling investigation from Clase, does that affect his value and what he can actually get? Besides, teams are not going to know if he's going to be suspended for the deadline. It 100% affects that, in my view. I think you're not trading for Clase at this point in time, even though he's still, he's not a UVA. He's got actually 2 years left on his deal too. But with this investigation, and there was a lot of, the big rumor for Cleveland was that it's going to be Quan and Clase going to the Dodgers for a boatload of prospects, because Quan, who is a great outfielder, but at the same time, he's one of these ones that it's not certain if he's going to sign the extension. So you got him, you got him for one more year plus the arbitration year if you trade him now. So he's kind of hot right now. And maybe this forces Cleveland's hand. I think going into this, I kind of thought that they'd be both. I could see them trying to sell off guys like Carlos Santana and Clase, because that's what the Cleveland does. This is the time where they try to make those moves. I think now, though, I think they're going to be all in the selling market. I've heard that they might even now, Cade Smith, who would likely be the closer if they traded away Clase, that he may be on the market, because if you want to get a big return, and teams need these type of relievers, that's now the ammo for it. Bieber just finished his second stint in Columbus. He pitched 50 pitches last night, did pretty well. Maybe they throw Bieber on the market, just because even without him making a start in the MLB, because he is a former Cy Young Award winner. I don't know. I don't feel good for, they've been rumored to try to trade Lane Thomas, but he's been so unhealthy this year. I just don't know. What are you going to get for a Lane Thomas right now? What are you going to get for Nolan Jones? That these guys are batting barely 200, and Lane can't stay healthy. So I think Cleveland's going to sell off what they can. I just don't know that they really have many attractive pieces to sell off, because you're not trading Jose and maybe Quan. So if Quan goes, that's the piece that they can throw out there, and a Cade Smith, or maybe some of these other bullpen arms, because they do have a loaded bullpen in Columbus. But I'm sad to say I think Cleveland is going to be a seller. Scott, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a seller.
Though.
They need to buy, but they're not going to buy. We could use a right field bat and a catcher, but it's Cleveland, and they never buy.
We do.
You have to get used to this, Sarah. This is the life of being a Guardians fan, and especially when news like this breaks with Clase and now Ortiz, they're going to move for next. Now, I don't think they're going to go like full rebuild, because they never do. Gertie says hi to everyone. There you are. Say hi, Gertie. They're never going to be full on. Cleveland is. I will give Cleveland this. We never have to go full rebuild like what you see the Miamis and the Pittsburghs do. They're very good at when like a Stephen Kwan. If they're going to move a Stephen Kwan, they're going to get good return for him. The problem I think that Cleveland has is they just don't ever give guys chances. Like Chase DeLauder, he was raking it up in Columbus. They should have brought him up, but they wanted him to hit this, and that, and then he gets hurt again. It's just sometimes they just don't. They don't bring these guys up in timely fashion. But it is what it is being a Cleveland fan, unfortunately. So I hear you, but I just don't see us making the move.
They should trade Cade Smith.
Yeah, I think Jared seems to.
They shouldn't go crazy, which could be considered crazy, but I would trade Cade Smith. You can get a good return, and don't trade Stephen Kwan.
I'd like to see him just sign Kwan long term. That would go over well with the fan base, especially but we'll see. We'll see what Cleveland does. The chances are, if the ownership has any say in it, it's going to be they're going to be gone. All right, so that's it for the baseball stuff. I do want to get into this real quick because Sarah's got a hard out at 6. I'm going to come back to the Nick Backstrom story, so I'm just going to go through that. But I want to talk about this with Sarah. The verdict came in on the Canada hockey scandal. For those that don't know, there are 5 players from the 2018 Canadian junior team: Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, Alex Fermenton, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote. They all were acquitted last week of a sexual assault. Before this all happened, just to give a quick rundown, Team Canada settled a civil suit before this trial. This trial had a mistrial. This trial had all kinds of different stuff, but it finally happened with just a judge only, no jury, because the jury had been thrown out before. So these players, they were all on NHL teams when this story broke basically 2 years ago. They've basically been suspended since then for 18 months. And basically what this all comes down to, if you're not familiar with it, McLeod and the plaintiff, who has been kept nameless throughout this whole entire thing, they, drunk in a bar after one of the games, they agreed to have consensual sex, but then the teammates are invited into the hotel room, and that's where the sexual misconduct is alleged to have taken place. And that's where it gets down to some the players have all said that she basically wanted it and it was consensual. She says that she was too drunk and she didn't necessarily make the greatest witness, when she was on the stand. So I think that's what hurt her case too. So it's like, and ultimately, I think the judge decided if you gave consensual sex to one, and you don't have the greatest memory of the other stuff, and that's where this happened. Now, the NHL has still come out and said that there was enough disgusting things that basically happened that they have not made any final decisions yet. They're going to review their evidence to decide when and if these players will be, be allowed to play again. The big name of the five is Carter Hart. He was the starting goaltender for the Philadelphia Flyers when this happened. So that's where we're at with this. Sarah, I want you to go first on this because I want to get the female perspective on this. So you have the floor. What do you got to say?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. I think it still shows that there's more work to be done in the law system dealing with these kinds of cases. I was talking about it earlier, like drunk consent is a very touchy subject because yes, it's consent in a way. I think what kind of maybe happened with, not going to make any like suspicions or anything, but probably just woke up and regretted the hell out of it. And it sucks because it's not a great situation to be in. And I could definitely see how it might be, again, like very rough and to deal with. And maybe I highly doubt it was like a for the fame thing, like as you see in certain situations. I mean, what Trevor Bauer just got of his, right? Because she was going for.
Yeah, that one's kind of a little bit different, but yeah, Bauer had a similar situation, and that one I think there's a little bit more evidence to support Bauer than where this one I think was truly he said, she said as far as what took place after the consensual sex between the
exactly, and it's tough. Like it's not great. I still just obviously think it shows there's still problems in the system. I mean, unfortunately, you do see not typically a lot of hockey players, but football players, they get in a lot of these typical cases. I think I saw like this one bet to see if Travis Hunter was going to get divorced before the season started. I don't know what that bet was. That one was kind of interesting. But no, it's rough. I mean, I haven't experienced obviously anything severe, but I have encountered situations that I don't want to be in and trying to figure out what exactly to do with it and how to go, because is it anyone going to believe you? It's rough. I think we need to work on a lot of, hopefully it's like a future generation thing where you try to understand like no means no. If you're drunk, just don't do it. Obviously it's easier said than done. When you're drunk, you don't really have a clue what you're doing, but it's tough. I mean, it sucks I think it kind of makes me feel better that they're still not playing in the NHL. I think I would feel disgusting about it if it's like, okay, you're not guilty, just go back to what you were doing. Right. But the fact that the NHL is still taking accountability for it and still figuring out on their own, it still makes me feel better as a female, like just to know that like they're still getting punishment for it in a way. They're not going to jail, but they're still going to get punishment because they didn't handle it the right way.
First lesson I taught you, ready, Sarah? We're going to give everyone the lesson, ready? First lesson I said about to you and all my female children. Boys are
stupid.
There we go. They especially at this age, boys are stupid, and that's why I've always taught all my girls about when they're out in these type of situations, like I don't expect them not to drink. You're when you're that age, I expect drinking to occur, right? But I taught them, keep your drink with you in your hands at all times. Do not let that drink out of your sight. Keep your hand over top of it. Just little things like that. And not that this is that type of situation, but ultimately boys are stupid. And then you add in drunk boys on top of it, they get even more stupid. So I just wanted to give my lesson that I've given to all the kids and make sure that, and see, she knows it because she knew the word right there off of it. So Scott, any thoughts on this? And Sarah, I know you said you had a hard out at 6. So if you got to go, just feel free to hit goodbye whenever you got to go. Okay. But that's why I wanted to at least get your thoughts on it first. So, Scooter, where are you at on it?
So it's interesting because the judge came down. She came down with this verdict after also apparently reviewing 2 videotapes of in which she determined was on the videotape that the girl was saying some pretty raunchy stuff.
Right.
Is a good way to say it, or like what she'll do, and she can't wait to do this stuff to you and you and you and all this stuff. And she didn't seem exactly incoherent, according to the judge. And it is a female judge. And there's also, since it is Canada, their judicial system's a touch different than ours, because you could get found not guilty and then you can go back to trial. So unlike here, and you have judge, but here, if it's a criminal, you have jury of your peers.
And I do think it's important to clarify too, like when I said that the civil suit got settled, Team Canada settled that civil suit. It was not the 5 individual players. Basically, Team Canada was trying to wash this thing under the rug. They made a settlement, which, probably the right thing to do, but that's near here, there. And I think this is a good question here that Anthony brings up. My question is, can you blame these kids for making this irresponsible decision? They're teenagers getting drunk at a bar. They're only 18. I'm not excusing you. I'm just asking the question. And I got you, Anthony. And I think that's a very good question to ask indeed. And that's where I don't know, I don't know the answer to that. I think it's a personal one. And that's where, like, I think some of the points that Sarah said are 100% correct. From the, from the victim side of this, I do think that there are, issues where when you get these he said, she says in these powerful situations where guys take advantage of that. And I think that those things are hard. But look, to be fair too, especially when you get somebody that where they know that they could get some money made off of it, that they make up claims against some of these athletes. And that's really the ones that really tick me off, because then I think it hurts the legitimate claim. So when this really happens to somebody, right, and this happens to a young lady, where the law needs to come down on any male that takes advantage of a female in this situation, I think the problem with that, of course, is that then you don't know which ones are the ones to believe or not, right? And I think that's part of this big problem too, is that, and there's no right or wrong answer. Yes, they're 18, but you should, like Sarah said, no means no. So that's that part of this that does come into this. And now I don't know that happened in this case, right? It seems like it's the exact opposite. But if a lady is saying, even if she starts saying yes, and then she changes that to a no, to me, that's it.
I'm going to answer Anthony's question, and then I'm going to go. Yes. I don't feel like age is an exact excuse, and not like he said, he's not doing that. But in my experience, I've had older men do things, and it's just like, and usually you would think the older man would have more sense than an 18-year. Like, there's a difference between boys and men, and I think it's like a growing up perspective of what exactly they grow up around. Your culture and everything really depends on how you treat other people, women specifically, how you treat them. If you grow up in a household of like a housewife thing, you're probably not going to have, it's different. I'm not going to make any things, but age, I don't think is an excuse in a way, because I've had older people treat me in a weird way where I've had younger people treat me with respect. So I think it really just depends of the situation in a way. Like, yes, at that point, they're 18 and drunk in a bar. Nasty stuff like that's going to happen. And that's where it gets rough with the drunk consent thing, because it's like, is it really no? Is it really yes? You're going to wake up and regret it. Then it doesn't mean it changes it. Like you said, that the he said, she said. But I don't think age is an excuse in a certain situation, At least in the situations that I've dealt with, it's not an excuse.
I agree. I know you got to go, kiddo. Go ahead and go. Anthony, I will ask Sarah the NASCAR question later, and I'll have her put an answer in the comments for you, because she'll go into the show, watch on Facebook, and she'll put a comment in there for you. But I know she's got a heart out because she's got somewhere she's got to be. So go ahead and go, kiddo. Thank you for your comments on it. I do appreciate it, and it's good stuff.
All right, bye.
Bye. So it kind of reminds me a little bit back in the day in the Duke lacrosse.
Yes.
Rape allegations that was going on against 5 guys on that team. Yeah. And unlike this one, they say we don't know anything what's going on here. We have no idea what this person's talking about. We didn't have sex with anyone. We didn't do anything. We were just at a house party. Everyone was having a good time at Duke. And there was this woman who said she was a prostitute.
Yep.
Now, 2 years ago, she admitted she totally made it up. Now, it was so bad that it went to trial. Those guys were looking at 20 years in prison.
Yep. And then
20 years in prison.
Guilty. I remember that I was living there that time. That was a big deal then. And I think
and that prosecutor started mishandling evidence. He started hiding evidence. So he got disbarred, and I think he went to jail.
Yep. Yeah, it was not well handled, and it was terrible. And it was, and that's one of those ones too, where like here, this one's a little bit different because clearly things happened. It's just a question of
everyone's agreeing that something happened.
Yeah, it's just a question of how much consent did she give or didn't give, right? And it's hard too because she's like, you don't want to see any of these kids' careers be hurt. But I am glad that the NHL said, hey, we're not going to make a quick decision on this. We're going to wait. We're going to look at all the evidence ourselves, and then we'll make a decision as far as what these 5 players will be available. And I'm glad that the NHL did that. I think that's good for the league, to not just say, okay, free game, you're back able to go out there and sign contracts. So I'm glad that they're making them wait. And I like Anthony's comment here. Girls in general mature faster than boys. Men sometimes take to their mid-30s to mature. And I'm being generous. You're 100% correct on that. That's why I always tell them boys are stupid.
With the NHL comments, you're right. However, the NHL just can't sit on it.
True. I think they got to make a decision by the beginning of the year. I think somewhere before, like when training camps open, I think that's when they need to have their decision made so that the teams know, are they going to have this player available or not? And I think that's important for the teams. But I'm glad but they have time for that. They've still got a month really before we have to worry about NHL training camps opening up. So I agree with you. They've got to. I think they're waiting for
prosecutors, what the prosecutors are going to do. And the prosecutors, again, it's Canada, it's not the U.S., so it's a little different. But if prosecutors are going to sit on this, they have all the evidence they need to refile. So
they have said they're going to appeal.
It's just a question of when. Yeah, you either do it or you don't. End it. Or bring it back to trial.
Yep, agree. And Anthony, for you, Scooter says that he'll answer the NASCAR question. Vic is pretty big into NASCAR, so he'll answer that. And I promise you, I will get to that question. But I want to finish up the hockey stuff, and then we'll do that. And I'm sorry, I moved forward from the hockey stuff before I asked the NASCAR, just because I knew Sarah had a hard out. She's got someone she had to be at 6:30, and I knew that she's probably cutting it close as it is. But so I wanted to get the hockey stuff in because she definitely wanted to comment on that, and I wanted to get her comments on that. I think it's important on this subject to have that female perspective from it. So good stuff there. Real quick, do you have anything else on the Hockey Canada stuff, Scott? Are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so let's go backwards then to this. It is for the Caps fans in the group. It is the official goodbye for Nick Backstrom. We all knew that he wasn't coming back, but it's now official. He was officially a free agent. No NHL team signed him. He does decide to go home to play for a team in Sweden in one of the Swedish leagues in his hometown. So it's officially. It looks like it's the official end of Nick Backstrom in the NHL. Look, if he lights it up in Sweden, is there a chance maybe somebody signs him? Probably, but I think with all of his injuries and stuff, I think he's probably done in the NHL. But look, he was a hell of a player. I don't know that Ovi gets the stats that he got to without Nick, because Nick did a hell of a job of feeding him in his office for a lot of those years. And he was overall, he's just a really good guy. So, I'm glad to see that he's going to get a chance to go out playing, because I wasn't sure that was going to happen. So at least he gets to go out playing the game that he loves, and that's important too. So Scooter, what are your thoughts on Nicky?
Yeah, I'm glad to see him, finishing up his career in Sweden. A lot of those European players love to do that. So it's good for him. He put his McLean house on the market. So that's a done deal. McLean, Virginia house on the market. So he is selling the house, and he's not looking back. Nick is probably one of the great centers, playmaking centers I've been able to be, as my favorite team. He was like Ron Francis is a different type of player altogether than Nick Backstrom as centers. But Nick can just he was probably better than anyone I can remember, having the puck in the corner and being able to move around, get hit, still have the puck, and then pass it back to the defenseman. He was able to extend those kind of plays like that, which is really key on getting extra goals. And when it comes to Nick in OV, let's just say OV was the entertainment. Nick was the management.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Ovi,
Good way to look
loving
at it.
everything, smiling, going crazy. Backstrom, he'd score a goal and he'd be like,
Yep. Good job. Good job, team. Yep, I agree with you. It's a sad day for Caps fans, but it's a good day, I think, for Nick. Like I think it's good that he gets to end playing. I wasn't sure that was going to be the case, so good for him. All right, I'm going to go backwards now. So this was the question that Anthony brought up on NASCAR. And so, Vic, if you're watching, I'll wait for your comment. So his question he brought up is this: do you think a manufacturer's championship or a team championship can work like you see for IndyCar and F1? Scott, what do you think? Because I'm gonna totally go to these guys, to you guys. I am not the NASCAR guy. I do not pretend to be a NASCAR guy, so I will yield to you on this one.
I'm having a sink flood from the apartment. It's a question about NASCAR. Do you think a managers championship or a team championship can work like it? No. I mean, they do it. They do that stuff. They got the Chevy, they have that, and then they have the team racing and everything. But it's not that big of a deal in NASCAR.
Okay.
I mean, it is like the big people, but I don't think in most cases. But people do love Chevy or Rick Hendricks Racing, that kind of thing like that. But F1's a totally different. I mean, there's open.
So you're saying no, that wouldn't work. I think you're right. I mean, I know there's like the team, like with the car thing and the points, and they try to do different point stuff. But yeah, like I said, I won't try to guess on that. I will get the stuff. And Vic says they have a team championship pretty much, but they call it the owners championship. But no, not necessarily manufacturers. So then, Vic, do you need to do something different with the team championship, do you guys think? Or is what they have worth a damn or working at all, or just doesn't really matter in NASCAR?
I mean, team championships matter, like especially like you're racing with your teammates and you're not trying to knock that kind of thing like that. It's a big deal to the owners and stuff, like I said, but the other stuff. Hey, I got to run. I'm sorry.
All right.
I got major issues here.
Okay. Yeah. You go take care of your issues. So.
Yeah. My apologies. I'm really sorry.
We got all kinds of fun happening. Take care.
Right?
Yeah. Do your little thing. Jeez. All kinds of fun happening here on the end of the show today. So so we'll get this here wrapped up here. All right. Anthony put in one question talking about Nick Backstrom. Would you say Alexander Barkov is probably going to replace Nick when he's finally completely retired from hockey, has the best playmaking center and two-way guy in the league? I think he has potential for that. I think it's way too early for that because Barkov's still got a lot of good years left. You could probably put him in that argument when that time comes, but he's still got plenty of good years left. I mean, I think he could climb up there, especially with the way Florida's going right now, with the amount, because look, a lot of this stuff too, the amount of Stanley Cups you win matter. And I don't think there's any reason to think that Florida's done at 2. Not saying that they're going to go, that they're going to be able to do the complete 3-peat, but the way that Florida has that roster built up, ready to go, I think the sky is the limit still for the Florida Panthers. It's going to be up to them as far as when they are done and over with. So yes, I think there is potential for that to be the case for Barkov to go down as one of the best two-way centers when it's all said and done, for sure. But he's still got a lot of good years left before we have to have that discussion about Barkov and where he's going to rate with history on the two-way side. We'll see about the goal scoring side, because I mean, look, there's Gretzky. And then there's everybody else in my view, but I admit I'm biased because I'm a Gretzky guy. So with that being said, we're going to get ready here to wrap this bad boy up. Definitely appreciate all the comments. Anthony, Vic, you guys were huge in their Midnight Rider. Love the comments, Jack, earlier. Love the back and forth. That's what this show is all about, especially these last couple of weeks. It seems like we've tackled some big subjects between the Trump comments and the teams, and then dealing with the Hockey Canada verdict. So very happy to see how those discussions took place, and I think they're good discussions for us to have, on the bigger subject lines. So we'll review any big trade talks, and then next year we're going to start our fantasy focus segment next week, not next year. That'd be dumb to start it next year, but we're going to focus on the tight ends and wide receivers. Who I think probably most on here probably are into the fantasy football, so we're going to start getting into some guys, and we're going to try to find guys that, we're not talking about the easy first round picks that they're sitting there that you take. We're going to look for some of those nice sleepers that maybe later in the pick could have those type of years, and that's what we're going to focus on next week, along with we'll review the big the trade deadline. So that's going to be coming up down the road, and then we'll hit any other baseball news that comes up. And look, it seems like, I don't know what it is, but it seems like every time on these Mondays, man, we hit something that happens right at the end of the show on Monday. Let's see here. Anthony's got one more comment in here. Do you think Florida can match Montreal in the 70s for Montreal in 5 or 6? Yes. Do I think that they can? The way they're currently constructed, yes, because they got all these guys signed now. Next year will be the interesting part because, Bob becomes a free agent after this year, and he's getting up there in age too for a goalie, but he's probably got, I think it's safe to say you got another 3 or 4 years left in Bob. So he's going to get one more probably decent contract out of this all. And I think that's where it's going to be because you're as good as your goaltending is. And with Bob, you're very, very good. They've got some holes in net right now in their system after that. So we'll see where that goes. But as of right now, I would say yes, if they can get Bob somehow signed next year, or they don't lose any of these guys, then absolutely they could go on that type of a run. 10 in the 70s might be a little bit hard just because these contracts I think are all going to be up, and then these players are going to be older. So, could they end up with like that Edmonton 4 and 5 run? 100%. I could see something like that happening. A 5 and 6, we'll see. I think it's definitely possible because they kept the core together. Like if they would, I thought this was the year that they're going to lose some of the core, and we'll see what happens. I ain't giving you my secrets, Matt. Vic talking about the fantasy sports stuff, so I like that. So good stuff there. From there, I do want to go into here to our show lineup, of course. Tonight, coming up here in like 40 minutes, the Pretenders and Contenders. And if you haven't listened to this show, again, it's a great show for the high school sports stuff. Looks like today he's got Coach D'Angelo Motley, assistant coach for Laurel High School cheer team. And he's also going to be joined by head coach Ian Hale from Suitland High School for, I think that is football. So the DC area, he really hits on these coaches, but I think it's a bigger picture too. Like, yes, this is what's going on in the DC area, but this is going on in the DC area. It's probably going on in your neck of the woods too, as far as it comes to dealing with that stuff. So that is a great show. That comes up here, of course, at 7 o'clock. Tuesday night flight comes up with the guys. Then you got the passenger seat with Gentleman Jack on Wednesday night. The Thursday night throw down the WrestleManiacs on Saturday. And again, if you haven't watched that show, guys, go back and watch that show from Saturday. Really good stuff on dealing with the Hogan, and then the Sunday morning rise. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your place to be. I do appreciate all of your comments. And, as we get ready to end the show, I will just say this, like I always do. Make sure you hug your loved ones. Tell them that you love them, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. But we hope that you join us again on the next show. And with that, I say adios, everybody. Have a good night.